The sun rose slowly over the small desert village, painting the sand and mud brick houses in shades of gold and orange. Birds called softly in the distance, and the air carried a warm, dry scent that reminded the villagers of long, quiet summers. In one of the older houses, a young scholar named Ramil moved carefully among stacks of books and scrolls. His grandfather's library was filled with history, legends, and forgotten stories, and Ramil loved to spend hours exploring its dusty corners. Today, however, he was not looking for any ordinary story. Ramil's fingers brushed over a thin, leather-bound book when something unusual caught his eye. A piece of paper, yellowed with age, had fallen from the pages. It was a map, old and worn, with faded lines and strange symbols. Ramil's heart raced. He carefully unfolded it and studied it closely. The map showed the desert beyond the village, marked with hills, caves, and rivers. At the center, a small symbol was drawn, a crown surrounded by jagged lines. A note in a handwriting older than anything he had ever seen read, "The forgotten king lies beneath the sands. Beware the curse that guards his rest." Ramil felt a mixture of excitement and fear. He had heard stories of King Harun before. The elders in the village often whispered about him, saying he had been a wise and powerful ruler who protected the lands from enemies, but they also said he had been forgotten over time and that his burial site was cursed. Many people believed that anyone who tried to find the tomb would never return. Yet, holding the map in his hands, Ramil felt a pull he could not ignore. His curiosity was stronger than fear. Ramil spent the morning packing supplies. He gathered food, water, and tools, thinking carefully about what he might need in the desert. He knew the journey would be long and dangerous. To help him, he decided to ask his friends Sophia and Amin to join. Sophia was a historian, clever and careful, always able to read old texts and symbols. Amin was a guide who knew the desert well. Brave and thoughtful, he could find safe paths through the sand and rocks. Together, they would be able to face whatever the desert held. When Ramil arrived at Sophia's house, he found her in the courtyard, brushing dust from her scrolls. "Sophia," he said, holding the map, "look at this. I think I have found the burial site of King Harun. We can be the first to discover it in hundreds of years." Sophia's eyes widened. She took the map and examined it carefully. "This is incredible," she said, her voice full of awe. "But it is dangerous. The elders have warned about the curse for generations. Many people believe that the tomb is protected by something beyond human understanding." "I know," Ramil said, "but imagine what we can learn. Think about the history we can uncover. The king's story should not be lost. We have to try." Sophia looked at him for a long moment. She could see the determination in his eyes. Finally, she nodded. "All right, I will go with you. But we must be careful. Every step will matter." Next, they went to Amin's house. Amin was preparing his camel and checking water containers. "Amin, we need your help," Ramil said. He spread the map on the ground. "We are going into the desert to find King Harun's burial site. Will you guide us?" Amin studied the map with a serious expression. "The desert is not forgiving," he said. "Many have tried to explore its sands and never returned." "Are you sure about this?" "Yes," Sophia said firmly. "We have to do this, but we will rely on your skills to keep us safe." Amin sighed, then nodded. "If we go together. But we must be careful and respect the desert. It is older and stronger than all of us." The three friends set out in the afternoon. The village slowly disappeared behind them, replaced by golden sand stretching to the horizon. The sun burned hot on their backs, and the wind carried grains of sand that stung their faces. They walked and rode in silence for hours, listening to the soft cries of distant birds and the whisper of the wind. Ramil could not stop thinking about the map, the crown symbol, and the warning of the curse. As the sun began to set, they found a small rise and decided to camp for the night. The sky turned deep orange and red, and stars slowly appeared. The desert felt quiet, yet alive. Strange sounds drifted from the distance, maybe the wind, maybe something else. Amin lit a small fire, and the three friends sat close, sharing a simple meal of bread and dates. Sophia studied the map again. "These symbols here," she said, pointing to the drawings, "they are old, older than anything I have seen before. They tell a story, but it is incomplete. We may discover more as we travel further." Ramil nodded. "I feel like the desert itself is waiting for us, as if it knows we are coming." That night, Ramil could not sleep. He kept imagining the tomb, the treasures, and the story of King Harun. Shadows from the fire danced across the sand, and the wind whispered through the dunes. He thought he heard voices, soft and distant, as if the past was trying to speak to him. Sophia and Amin slept soundly, but Ramil stayed awake, feeling the pull of history calling him forward. By morning, the desert had changed. The sand was cooler, and the light was soft. Their journey was just beginning, and the path ahead was uncertain. Yet, all three felt a shared excitement, knowing that they were following a trail that no one had seen for hundreds of years. Somewhere ahead, the burial site of King Harun waited, hidden beneath the sands. Holding its secrets and its curse, Ramil, Sophia, and Amin stood at the edge of a small dune, looking at the endless desert. With determination in their hearts and a map in their hands, they began walking, each step taking them closer to the forgotten king. The sun climbed higher, and the desert seemed to watch them, holding its breath for the story that was about to unfold. The sun rose higher, spreading warmth across the endless desert. Ramil, Sophia, and Amin continued their journey, walking carefully over the soft, golden sand. Each step was slow and deliberate. The wind carried tiny grains of sand that brushed their faces and arms. The desert seemed empty, yet alive, as if it were watching them. Amin led the way, using his knowledge to find safe paths between the dunes. "This area can be tricky," Amin said. "The sand shifts quickly, hiding holes and rocks. We must stay alert." Sophia nodded, keeping her eyes on the map. "The markings here suggest we should reach a rocky hill by afternoon. It may be our first clue to the tomb's location." Ramil carried the map carefully, feeling its weight in his hands. Each symbol seemed to whisper secrets of the past. He thought of King Harun, a ruler who had protected his people many years ago. He imagined the treasures hidden beneath the sand, and the tomb that had remained untouched for centuries. Despite the heat and exhaustion, Ramil felt a thrill with every step. By noon, the desert became harsher. The sun's rays burned bright, and the sand reflected the light, making it difficult to see far ahead. Amin led them to a small rock formation that provided some shade. They sat down, drinking water slowly. "We have come far, but the map shows more challenges ahead," Amin said. "The desert will test our patience and strength. We must keep our minds clear and our bodies steady." Sophia looked at the surrounding sand and rocks. The carvings on the map suggest that the tomb is hidden near unusual stones, possibly shaped like animals or ancient symbols. We must watch carefully for signs. After resting, the three continued walking. The desert stretched endlessly, and each dune looked similar to the last. Hours passed, and fatigue began to weigh on them. Yet, every time Ramil thought of turning back, he remembered the promise of discovery and the chance to uncover history. Sophia moved silently, studying the horizon for any unusual formations. Amin carefully checked the sand, ensuring that no dangerous paths were ahead. As the sun began to descend, they spotted something in the distance, a cluster of rocks unlike the others. Some were tall and jagged, while others were flat with strange marks. Ramil felt a spark of excitement. "That must be it," he said. "This may lead us to the tomb." They approached slowly, noticing the carvings more clearly. Symbols of animals, warriors, and mysterious patterns were etched into the rocks. The carvings were old and worn, yet they seemed to tell a story. Sophia ran her fingers gently over the lines. "These are ancient warnings," she said. "They speak of a king, of treasures, and of a curse that protects his burial site." Amin frowned. "The elders were right. We must be careful. The desert has its dangers, and these stones suggest that more challenges are ahead." As the sun set, the sky turned shades of red and orange. The desert became quiet, except for the soft whisper of the wind. The three friends set up camp near the rocks. Amin lit a small fire, while Sophia checked the carvings one last time. Ramil carefully studied the map, trying to match the symbols with the stones around them. That night, the desert felt different. The wind carried strange sounds, almost like faint voices calling from far away. Shadows from the fire danced across the sand and rocks, creating shapes that seemed alive. Ramil felt a shiver, sensing that the tomb's mystery was closer than ever. Sophia spoke quietly. The carvings mention trials for those who seek the king's tomb. It is likely that the path ahead will test us, not just physically, but in mind and courage. Amin added, "We must work together. Any mistake may be dangerous." The desert will not forgive carelessness. Despite the warnings, Ramil felt determined. He could not turn back now. The tomb was near, and the story of King Harun waited to be uncovered. He wondered what the king's life had been like, what treasures were hidden, and what secrets the curse held out. As they slept, the desert shifted silently. The stars above sparkled, and the night breeze carried a soft, almost musical whisper. It felt as if the desert itself was alive, watching, waiting, and protecting the forgotten king. The next morning, they continued toward the jagged rocks. The path became more difficult, with steep slopes and loose sand. Amin led carefully, guiding them around dangerous areas. Sophia used the map to find clues, marking the locations of unusual stones and carvings. Ramil's excitement grew with every step out. By midday, they discovered the entrance to a small cave. Hidden behind a tall rock, the cave's opening was narrow, almost hidden from view. The walls around it were covered with carvings of lions, warriors, and strange symbols. Ramil felt a thrill. This could be it, he whispered. Sophia studied the carvings. These symbols tell of a king who was strong, wise, and feared by enemies. They also warn that those who disturb his rest will face a curse. Amin's expression was serious. "We are close. The tomb may be inside, but we must be careful." The desert and the tomb both demand respect. They decided to rest outside the cave before entering. Ramil felt the excitement building in his chest. The tomb, the treasure, and the story of King Harun were just ahead, yet he also felt a sense of unease. The desert had tested them so far, and the cave seemed to hold even greater challenges. As the sun set again, painting the sky in deep orange and purple, the friends prepared for the next day. They checked their supplies, marked their path, and rested, knowing that the journey into the tomb would require courage, intelligence, and teamwork. That night, Ramil could hardly sleep. He imagined the tomb, the treasures, and the king's story. Shadows from the fire danced across the rocks, and the wind carried whispers that sounded almost like old voices warning them. Yet, he felt a thrill stronger than fear. The desert had tested them, and they had survived. The tomb awaited, and the story of the forgotten king was ready to be uncovered. By morning, they would take the first step into history, ready to face the trials of the desert and the secrets hidden within the forgotten king's burial site. The morning sun stretched across the desert, spilling light over the jagged rocks and soft sand. Ramil, Sophia, and Amin stood at the edge of the hidden cave. The air was cooler near the rocks, and a quiet stillness filled the area. For a moment, the desert seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for the three friends to take the first step. Ramil tightened the straps of his bag, which held the map and supplies, and looked at the cave entrance. The darkness beyond the rocks was deep and mysterious, hiding secrets that had been untouched for centuries. "We must be careful," Amin said, his voice steady. "The carvings outside warned us, and the desert has already tested us inside the cave. We may face challenges we cannot yet imagine." Sophia nodded, her eyes tracing the symbols etched into the stone around the entrance. "These carvings are very old. They tell stories of the king's life and of those who tried to enter his tomb. Some did not return, but I believe they also show a path, clues that will help us move safely." Ramil took a deep breath. "Then let us go. We have come this far, and we cannot turn back now." Together, They stepped into the cave. The temperature dropped immediately, and the air smelled of earth and time. The sunlight faded behind them, leaving only the faint glow of the desert sky filtering through cracks in the rock. Their footsteps echoed on the stone floor, each sound seeming louder than usual in the stillness. The walls inside were covered with carvings, much like those outside. Lions, warriors, and strange symbols filled every surface. Some symbols were sharp and geometric, others soft and flowing, telling stories that only Sophia could interpret. She moved carefully along the wall, tracing the lines with her fingers. "These carvings describe the king's reign," she said softly. "They show victories, celebrations, and the treasures he protected. They also warn of a curse for those who disturb his rest." Amin kept his eyes on the path ahead. "We must stay alert. The ground may be uneven, and the cave may have hidden traps or pitfalls. One wrong step could be dangerous." Ramil felt his excitement grow with each step. The cave seemed endless, with twists and turns that made it hard to see the far end. Small rocks crumbled under their feet, and faint drafts of air whispered through cracks in the walls. Sometimes it felt as if the cave itself was alive, watching and waiting. After walking for nearly an hour, they reached a larger chamber. The ceiling arched high above, and the walls were filled with murals. Scenes of the king's life covered the stones. He was shown leading armies, holding ceremonies, and standing before subjects who respected and feared him. In the center of the murals was a depiction of the burial chamber, with symbols that glowed faintly even in the dim light. "This must be the king's tomb," Ramil whispered, awed by the sight. "The carvings are guiding us to it." Sophia studied the glowing symbols. "They are warnings and instructions," she said. "The king wanted his tomb to be protected. These symbols tell us how to proceed safely. If we understand them correctly, we can avoid danger." Amin examined the floor carefully. "Look at the stones. Some are uneven, and some seem to move slightly when pressure is applied. This may be part of the king's protection. We must step carefully and follow the path shown by the symbols." They moved slowly across the chamber, each step cautious. The carvings on the walls seemed to tell a story as they walked: the king's victories, his wisdom, and his warnings to those who would disturb him. The air felt heavier with every step, and a sense of history pressed around them, as if the past itself were alive in the stones. Finally, they reached another stone formation that blocked their path. It was a wall of rock with no visible entrance, only more carvings. Sophia ran her fingers over the symbols, reading aloud in a soft voice. "The king's tomb is hidden. Only those who understand his story and respect his life can pass. Greed and fear will not help. Only knowledge and courage will open the way." Ramil looked at the carvings carefully. "Then we must continue carefully. We respect the king, and we are here to learn, not to take." As he spoke, a faint sound echoed through the chamber. It was soft at first, like a whisper, then louder, like the murmur of distant voices. The shadows on the walls flickered, and the carvings seemed to shimmer. Amin's hand tightened around the edge of his bag. "This is no ordinary cave," he said. "The warnings were true. The tomb's protections are real." Ramil felt a chill but also a thrill. "We cannot turn back now. The tomb is close, and we have come too far. Let's proceed." They carefully examined the stone wall. Sophia noticed that one of the carvings, a lion with a raised paw, seemed slightly different from the others. "This may be a mechanism," she said. "Perhaps the king created a way to open the path if we follow the instructions correctly." With careful hands, she pressed the carved paw. A deep rumble echoed through the chamber, and the stone wall slowly shifted, revealing a narrow passage. The air from the passage was cooler, and it smelled of earth and something older, almost sacred. "This is it," Ramil whispered, his heart pounding. "The path to the king's tomb." Amin stepped forward cautiously, leading the way through the passage. Ramil and Sophia followed, their footsteps echoing softly. The passage was tight, forcing them to move single file. The walls were covered with more carvings, each telling a piece of the king's story. Ramil felt a connection to the past, as if the king's life and wisdom were guiding them through the darkness. after what felt like hours. The passage opened into another chamber. This one was larger, with a high ceiling and walls carved with more detailed murals. In the center was a raised platform, and on it lay a stone sarcophagus. The carvings around it glowed faintly, illuminating the chamber with a soft, golden light. Ramil, Sophia, and Amin stood in awe. The tomb of King Harun lay before them, untouched for centuries. Full of history, secrets, and mysteries, the air was thick with the weight of the past, and the shadows seemed to watch them carefully. Sophia spoke softly. "This is incredible. The king's story is here, preserved in stone and symbol. We must be careful. The curse may still be active." Amin nodded. "We are close, but we must move slowly. Every step matters." Ramil felt a mixture of excitement and fear. They had reached the hidden entrance and uncovered the first chamber of the tomb. Ahead lay the mysteries of the forgotten king, the treasures, and the challenges that awaited them. The journey had grown more dangerous, but the reward was also greater. The story of a king who had been lost to time, waiting to be remembered. The three friends took a deep breath and prepared to enter the heart of the tomb, ready to face the trials that the forgotten king had left behind. The air in the tomb's chamber was cooler than outside, carrying the scent of earth and ancient stone. Ramil, Sophia, and Amin stepped carefully onto the stone floor, each of them aware that they had entered a place untouched for centuries. The soft glow of the carvings cast shadows on the walls, making the figures of lions, warriors, and symbols appear to move slightly. The atmosphere felt heavy, almost alive, as if the tomb itself were watching them. "This is incredible," Ramil whispered. "We are standing where no one has stood for hundreds of years." Sophia nodded, her eyes scanning every detail. "Yes, but remember the warnings. The carvings outside mentioned a curse. The king protected his rest carefully. We must respect every step we take." Amin walked ahead, his eyes constantly searching the ground and walls. "The chamber is large, but it may have traps or surprises. Keep alert. We cannot afford mistakes here." As they moved further into the chamber, they noticed a large statue at the far end. It was a lion, carved from a single piece of stone, with eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the soft light. Its posture was alert, as if guarding the room. Ramil stepped closer, feeling both awe and unease. "The lion is part of the king's protection," Sophia said quietly. "It may be symbolic, but the carving suggests that it watches over the treasures. And the sarcophagus, we must not disturb it carelessly." Ramil felt a shiver, but also a thrill. The tomb had been hidden for centuries, and now they were inside. Every detail, from the murals to the carvings and statues, spoke of a king whose life had been full of wisdom, courage, and authority. As they approached the sarcophagus, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. The walls trembled slightly, and the glowing carvings seemed to flicker. Amin stepped back and raised his hand. "Did you hear that?" he asked. "Yes," Ramil said, his voice tense. "The carvings, the statues, it feels as if the tomb is alive." Sophia examined the inscriptions around the sarcophagus. The king wanted to protect his rest. These words warn that anyone who takes the treasures or disturbs the tomb will face the curse. But there's also guidance for those who enter with respect and knowledge. Ramil looked at the treasures carefully arranged near the sarcophagus. Golden vessels, jewelry, and ceremonial items gleamed in the dim light. His curiosity urged him forward. He reached out and picked up a golden amulet, examining it closely. The moment he held it, the air in the chamber changed. The temperature dropped slightly, and shadows moved more rapidly across the walls. Amin stepped forward quickly. "Ramil, be careful. The inscriptions warned about greed and disrespect. Put it down." Ramil hesitated, but slowly placed the amulet back on the sarcophagus. At that moment, the rumble intensified, and the statue's eyes glowed brighter. A soft whisper filled the chamber, like voices carried from far away. The sound was impossible to locate, but seemed to come from all directions at once. "What is happening?" Ramil asked, his heart pounding. Sophia's face was serious. "The curse is responding. The tomb recognizes that we are intruders. even if our intentions are not harmful. We must proceed with respect, using knowledge and care to move forward. Amin nodded. This is the test the king set for anyone who enters. The tomb is not just a resting place. It is a challenge, designed to ensure that only those worthy of his story can continue. As they continued to explore the chamber, the rumbling subsided, but the whispers remained faintly in the background. The carvings on the walls seemed to tell a story now in a clearer way. The king's life, the treasures he protected, and the warning to intruders. Sophia traced her fingers along the symbols, reading them aloud softly. They speak of loyalty, courage, and wisdom, she said. Those who seek knowledge without greed are allowed to proceed. Those who act with selfishness may never leave. We must solve the riddles and follow the instructions carefully. Ramil studied the sarcophagus. The lid was engraved with intricate symbols and patterns. He could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. It seems the king wanted his story to be remembered, but only by those who could truly understand it. He said. Amin moved around the chamber, checking for hidden mechanisms or traps. The floor has some unusual stones. Step carefully. One wrong move could trigger something dangerous. Following Amin's guidance, they moved slowly, examining every detail of the chamber. Sophia continued to interpret the carvings, while Ramil took notes and studied the treasures without touching them. The whispers seemed to guide them, as if encouraging their careful steps and respect for the tomb. After some time, they discovered another part of the chamber that appeared to lead deeper into the tomb. A stone archway, decorated with carvings of animals and symbols, marked the entrance. The carvings glowed faintly, as if responding to their presence. This may be the next stage, Sophia said. The king created this path to test those who follow. We need courage and wisdom to continue. The challenge grows more difficult as we move forward. Ramil nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement. We have come so far. The tomb's secrets are here, and we must see them fully. The king's story deserves to be remembered. Amin took the lead, carefully guiding them through the archway. The passage beyond was narrower, forcing them to move in single file. Shadows flickered on the walls, and the whispers grew slightly louder, as if testing their resolve. As they moved, the air seemed heavier, carrying the weight of the past. Every stone, every carving, and every symbol reminded them that they were not just explorers, they were participants in a story that had been written centuries ago. The tomb had a presence, an awareness, and it demanded respect. Finally, the passage opened into a smaller chamber, dimly lit by the glowing symbols on the walls. In the center, a stone pedestal held another artifact, a small, intricately carved box. Ramil approached it cautiously, feeling the pull of curiosity. Sophia placed her hand gently on his shoulder. Remember the warnings. The king's curse responds to actions. We are here to understand, not to take. Treat this with care. Ramil nodded and slowly examined the box. The carvings on it told a story of the king's life and his protection of the kingdom. As he looked, he realized that the tomb was more than just a resting place. It was a lesson, a challenge, and a history preserved in stone. Amin's voice broke the silence. The tomb is testing us. If we proceed with respect, courage, and knowledge, we will succeed. If we act hastily or with greed, the curse may claim us. Keep your minds clear and your hearts true. Ramil and Sophia exchanged a determined look. They understood that the tomb was alive with the king's memory and protection. Every step, every decision mattered. The adventure had grown more dangerous, but it had also become more meaningful. They were no longer just explorers. They were witnesses to history, carrying the weight of the forgotten king's story. The trials had begun, and the tomb would reveal its secrets only to those who could honor its purpose. The small chamber was silent except for the faint whispers that seemed to flow from the walls. Ramil, Sophia, and Amin stood together, feeling the weight of history pressing down around them. The carved box on the pedestal glimmered faintly under the soft glow of the symbols, and the air felt heavier, as if the tomb itself were alive. Every step they had taken had led to this moment, and each of them sensed that the true challenges of the tomb were only beginning. Sophia carefully studied the carvings on the box. The king left instructions, she said. This is not just treasure, it is part of the story. We need to understand what it means if we want to continue safely. Ramil nodded, his fingers hovering above the intricate patterns. We must respect it. We cannot rush. The tomb is watching, and the curse is real. I can feel it. Amin moved closer, scanning the walls and floor. The tomb is testing us. Every artifact, every carving, is part of a trial. We need patience, courage, and wisdom to proceed. Ramil carefully traced the lines on the box with his fingers. The carvings depicted scenes from King Harun's life battles, celebrations, and moments of wisdom. At the center was a depiction of a glowing crown, surrounded by shadows and figures that appeared to move as Ramel's eyes followed them. Suddenly, the chamber trembled slightly, and a low, deep hum filled the room. The shadows on the walls stretched and twisted, creating shapes that seemed almost alive. Amin stepped back, eyes wide. The curse is reacting, he said. We have entered the deeper part of the tomb. Be alert. Sophia's voice was steady, but tense. We must continue carefully. The carvings suggest that those who proceed with respect will be guided. Those who act hastily may face dangers we cannot see. As they moved forward, the floor beneath them began to shift subtly. Stones that had seemed stable a moment ago tilted under their weight, creating small gaps. Amin guided them carefully, warning them of each uneven step. This is part of the trial, he said. The tomb is testing our awareness and caution. The chamber grew darker as they advanced. The faint glow of the symbols illuminated just enough of the path to see where they were stepping. The whispers grew louder, forming words that were almost intelligible, though no voice could be identified. Ramil felt a chill run down his spine. They are guiding us, Sophia said softly, or warning us. We need to listen carefully, even if the sounds are strange. They reached a narrow corridor, with walls covered in more carvings. The figures on the stone seemed to move slightly in the flickering light. Ramil noticed a pattern forming a series of symbols repeated along the walls, like a code. This is another test, he said. We must understand the pattern to proceed safely. Sophia examined the symbols closely. It is a story of the king's life, repeated in different ways. Each repetition emphasizes a lesson: courage, loyalty, patience, and respect. We must follow these lessons to avoid triggering the curse. Amin led the way, carefully stepping on stones that matched the pattern of symbols. Ramil and Sophia followed, each placing their feet with care. The whispers seemed to respond to their actions, growing softer when they followed the correct path and louder when they hesitated. Suddenly, the corridor opened into a larger chamber. The ceiling arched high above, and the walls were covered with murals depicting battles and ceremonies. In the center of the room was a stone platform surrounded by small pits. Golden vessels and ceremonial items rested on the platform, glimmering in the soft glow. Ramel's eyes widened. This must be part of the king's treasure, he whispered. But it is arranged as another trial. Sophia nodded. The king wanted to test those who enter. These items are not just treasure. They are symbols, and each one represents a lesson. We must interpret them correctly to proceed. As they approached the platform, the shadows around the room seemed to shift more noticeably. Figures of warriors appeared along the walls, their eyes glowing faintly. The whispers grew louder, forming phrases that warned of consequences for mistakes. Amin's voice was calm but firm. Stay focused. Every step matters. Do not let greed or fear guide you. Ramil carefully examined the platform. The golden vessels were arranged in a pattern, and the carvings suggested a sequence of actions. He realized that they had to move the items in a particular order, matching the story of the king's life. Hesitation could trigger the curse, but rushing could be equally dangerous. Sophia began interpreting the murals. The king faced many challenges in his life, and he overcame them through wisdom, courage, and respect. We must honor these lessons in our actions. Each item here represents a part of his journey. With careful hands, they began to move the vessels, following the sequence indicated by the murals and carvings. As they progressed, the shadows on the walls shifted more subtly, no longer threatening but guiding. The whispers became softer, almost like encouragement, after completing the sequence. A soft rumble passed through the chamber. The golden glow of the items intensified, illuminating the walls completely. The platforms and pits became safe to cross, and a hidden passage opened on the far side of the room. Ramil exhaled slowly, feeling a mixture of relief and exhilaration. We did it. We passed the first real test of the tomb. Sophia smiled, her eyes bright. The king's story is helping us. We are learning from him. The curse is real, but it also guides those who respect it. Amin nodded. This is only the beginning. The tomb's trials will become more difficult, but we are prepared. We must continue with patience and courage. The three friends moved into the newly opened passage. The air grew cooler, and the whispers became fainter, as if the tomb were satisfied with their progress. Each step brought them closer to the heart of the burial site, and closer to the secrets the forgotten king had hidden for centuries. Ramil glanced at Sophia and Amin. We have faced the first trial together. If we stay focused, respect the tomb, and work as a team, we can uncover the king's story and survive the curse. Sophia nodded. Yes. The tomb tests more than strength or courage. It tests understanding. We must learn from the king's life as we move forward. Amin adjusted his bag and checked their supplies. The path ahead will be more dangerous. We may face challenges that require not just intelligence and bravery, but also trust in each other. Stay close and stay alert. As they stepped into the deeper passage, the chamber behind them faded from view. The tomb seemed to close around them, not to trap them, but to focus their journey. The shadows shifted, and the soft whispers continued to guide them. The golden glow of the symbols dimmed slightly, leaving the next path illuminated only enough to see their steps clearly. Ramil felt a thrill of anticipation. The tomb was no longer just a place of history. It was a living story, challenging them, guiding them, and teaching them lessons that had survived through centuries. The curse was not only a warning, it was a test. They had passed the first stage, but the heart of the tomb was still ahead, holding greater challenges, more mysteries, and the story of King Harun waiting to be revealed. The passage ahead was narrow and uneven, forcing Ramil, Sophia, and Amin to move carefully. Every step echoed softly against the stone walls, and the faint glow from the symbols on the walls guided them through the darkness. The deeper they went, the cooler the air became, carrying the scent of earth and something older, almost sacred. The tomb seemed alive, aware of their presence, and the whispers of the past grew faintly louder, as if testing their courage and understanding. This passage is different, Amin said quietly. The tomb is preparing us for the next trial. It will test more than our strength or knowledge. We must rely on courage, trust, and wisdom. Sophia traced the carvings on the walls, interpreting the story as they moved. The king's life was filled with challenges, and his tomb reflects that. He faced enemies, betrayal, and hard decisions. Each symbol here teaches a lesson. We must learn it if we want to continue safely. Ramil's heart raced with excitement. He had never felt so close to history. Every detail of the carvings, the shadows, the whispers made the tomb feel alive. It was no longer just a resting place for the king. It was a living story, waiting to be understood by those who respected it. After several minutes of careful walking, they entered a larger chamber. This room was filled with stone platforms, small pools of water, and carvings that glowed faintly. The shadows of figures on the walls seemed to move subtly, as if watching their every action. This must be another trial, Ramil said softly. The arrangement of the platforms and pools must mean something. Sophia studied the carvings closely. The king's story is hidden here in the symbols. The platforms represent choices, and the pools may represent consequences. We need to move carefully and think before acting. Amin nodded. We must test the path slowly. One wrong move could trigger a trap or awaken the curse. Stay alert and follow the patterns carefully. They began stepping from platform to platform, following the patterns suggested by the carvings. Each platform had a symbol that matched one of the murals they had seen earlier. The shadows shifted slightly with every step, but nothing dangerous happened as long as they moved with care and respect. Suddenly, the room trembled, and the water in the pools rippled as if something had moved beneath the surface. A low hum filled the chamber, echoing from the walls. The whispers grew louder, forming faint words: respect, courage, wisdom, trust. Ramil felt a shiver of awe and fear. The curse is real, he whispered. It reacts to our actions. We have to continue carefully. Sophia's eyes were focused on the carvings. The king created these trials to test those who enter. He wanted to ensure that only those who understand his life and values could reach the heart of the tomb. We must respect the process. Amin. Move slowly ahead, guiding Ramil and Sophia through the room. Step lightly. Each movement must match the symbols. We must think and act as one team. Any mistake could be dangerous. As they progressed, Ramil noticed that the shadows on the walls seemed to shift in response to their actions. When they moved correctly, the shadows became softer and almost welcoming. When they hesitated, the shadows twisted and darkened, creating an uneasy feeling. This is amazing, Ramil said quietly. The tomb itself seems alive, guiding us through the story of the king. Sophia nodded. It is not alive in the way we think, but it is designed to respond to respect and understanding. The king's wisdom is preserved here, and we must honor it. After carefully crossing the platforms and pools, they reached a stone staircase that led upward. The steps were narrow and steep, and the walls were carved with scenes of King Harun leading his people, celebrating victories and facing challenges. The carvings seemed more vivid than anything they had seen so far, and the whispers grew softer, as if encouraging them forward. This must be the final part of the trial, Sophia said. The king's story is almost complete. We are learning from him, and the tomb is guiding us. Ramil felt a mixture of excitement and fear. The journey had been long and dangerous, but they were close to uncovering the heart of the burial site. Every step carried them closer to the king's sarcophagus, and every symbol taught them a lesson about courage, wisdom, and respect. At the top of the staircase, they entered a large chamber filled with golden light. The walls were carved with scenes of the king's greatest moments, and the sarcophagus stood at the center on a raised platform. Surrounding it were treasures carefully arranged, each one shining softly. This is it, Ramil whispered, the king's final resting place. Sophia examined the carvings around the sarcophagus. These tell the full story of King Harun. They speak of his life, his values, and the lessons he wanted to leave behind. We must approach carefully and with respect. Amin stepped forward, scanning the chamber for traps or hidden dangers. We have passed the trial so far. The king's curse is still here, but it seems satisfied with our actions. Stay focused and proceed with care. Ramil approached the sarcophagus, feeling the weight of history pressing down on him. Every detail, from the carvings to the treasures, was a part of the king's life and wisdom. He carefully studied the sarcophagus lid, noticing symbols that seemed to glow softly in response to his presence. Sophia stepped beside him. The king's story is complete here. We must honor it. Respect, courage, and wisdom have brought us this far, and they will guide us to the next stage. Amin nodded. The tomb has tested us in every way, physically, mentally, and morally. We have learned the lessons of the king. The final step is to understand and honor them fully. Ramil took a deep breath and placed his hands gently on the sarcophagus. The glow from the symbols intensified, and the shadows in the room seemed to shift, forming the image of King Harun himself, as if acknowledging their respect. The king is teaching us, Ramil said softly. We are not just explorers. We are learning from history. We are part of his story now. Sophia smiled, feeling a deep connection to the past. Yes, the tomb is alive with his wisdom. We must carry it forward, share it, and respect it. That is the true purpose of this place. Amin's voice was calm but firm. We have passed the trials together. The curse has tested our courage, patience, and respect. Now, we must complete the final step, understanding the king's life and ensuring that his story is remembered. The chamber grew quiet, the soft glow of the symbols fading slightly as if satisfied with their actions. The tomb had accepted them, not just as visitors, but as witnesses to history. The trials had strengthened their minds and hearts, teaching them lessons that had survived through centuries. Ramil, Sophia, and Amin stood together, feeling a sense of accomplishment and awe. They have faced the tomb's most difficult challenges, learned the story of the forgotten king, and survived the trials designed to protect his legacy. The journey had tested them, but it had also brought them closer to the past, allowing them to understand the wisdom and courage of King Harun. With respect and determination, they prepared to leave the chamber, carrying not just the treasures, but the knowledge and story of a king who had been lost to time. The tomb had shared its secrets, and now it was their duty to ensure that the king's legacy would never be forgotten. The glow from the sarcophagus faded slowly, leaving the chamber bathed in soft golden light. Ramil, Sophia, and Amin stood silently, feeling the weight of centuries pressing gently upon them. Every carving, every symbol, and every treasure told the story of King Harun's life, his victories, his struggles, and the wisdom he had gained. They realized that they were not merely visitors, but witnesses to a legacy that had endured despite time and neglect. This is more than a tomb, Sophia said quietly. It is a library of the king's life. Every trial, every symbol, every treasure has a lesson for us. Amin nodded. The curse was not meant to harm. It was meant to protect knowledge. It tested respect, courage, and understanding. Now, the tomb has accepted us as worthy. Ramil looked around the chamber, studying the treasures carefully. Ancient scrolls, gold ornaments, ceremonial weapons, and intricate jewelry were arranged with perfect care. Each item had a purpose, telling a story about the king and his people. He reached out and touched a small golden emblem, feeling warmth flow through his fingers. These are not just objects, Ramil said. They are memories. Each one shows what King Harun valued most: honor, loyalty, and wisdom. We must treat them carefully. Sophia stepped closer to the sarcophagus. The carvings show the king's journey, but also the end of his story. He wanted his life to teach those who came after him. Now, we must make sure that lesson is shared, but without disturbing the tomb's sacredness. Amin studied the chamber walls. There may still be one final part of the curse. The tomb will allow us to leave, but it will only do so if we show that we truly understand its lessons. We must proceed with caution and integrity. They approached the sarcophagus together. Ramil carefully lifted the lid, revealing the inner chamber where King Harun rested. The mummy lay surrounded by precious artifacts, untouched and preserved. As if time had paused to honor him, the room emanated a quiet strength, almost as if the king himself were watching them. We must not take anything from here, Sophia whispered. The treasures are symbols. Taking them would be disrespectful. Our task is to remember and share the story, not to claim it as our own. Amin placed his hand gently on the sarcophagus. We have passed the trials, but this is the true test. Understanding, respect, and knowledge is more important than greed. If we leave with wisdom instead of objects, the tomb will allow us to depart safely. Ramil nodded. Then let us honor King Harun by remembering his life, teaching others, and never forgetting the lessons he left behind. They stepped back from the sarcophagus and took one last look at the chamber. The symbols glowed faintly again, almost like a silent blessing. The shadows on the walls no longer twisted or darkened. They seemed calm, peaceful, and almost grateful. Sophia turned toward Amin and Ramil. We have done well. The tomb has accepted us because we acted with understanding, courage, patience, and respect have brought us here. Now, it is time to leave. As they moved toward the staircase, the chamber seemed to shift slightly, as if guiding them out. The platforms and pools from the previous trial appeared easier to navigate, the symbols along the walls glowing softly to show the correct path. The tomb, it seemed, was satisfied with their choices. Ramil glanced back one last time. I feel like we have learned more than we expected. This journey has changed the way I think about history, life, and respect for the past. King Haroon's story is now part of us. Sophia smiled. Yes, every step, every trial, every whisper from the walls has taught us something valuable. The tomb is a teacher as much as it is a resting place. Amin led the way out of the tomb, guiding Ramil and Sophia carefully through the narrow passageways. They moved slowly, ensuring that no misstep would disturb the tomb's delicate structure. Every shadow, every symbol, seemed to acknowledge their presence, fading softly as they passed. Finally, they reached the exit, where sunlight streamed into the cave. The sudden brightness made their eyes squint, but it was a welcome warmth after the long darkness. They stepped outside, feeling the air of the open world on their skin. The tomb behind them remained silent, mysterious, and untouchable, as it had for centuries. Ramil exhaled deeply. We made it, the tomb, the curse, the trials that all feels unreal. But I know that what we learned is real. This is a story that must be shared, not hidden. Sophia nodded, looking back at the cave entrance. We have a duty now. King Haroon's life, his lessons, his wisdom, they must reach others. History is alive when we honor it. And that is what we must do. Amin smiled gently. We were chosen, not because we were brave or strong, but because we were willing to learn. The tomb tested our hearts and minds. Now, it trusts us to carry its story forward. Let us do so with care and integrity. They began their journey back to the village, the sunlight guiding them and the cool breeze brushing their faces. Along the way, they discussed the lessons they had learned, the challenges they had faced, and the courage it had taken to honor the tomb. Every word strengthened their bond and deepened their understanding of the past. Ramil realized that the tomb's true treasure was not gold or jewelry, but knowledge and respect. He felt grateful for the experience and determined to share it with others. History is not just a story of the past, he said. It is a guide for the present and future. King Haroon has shown us that wisdom lasts longer than wealth. Sophia added, and respect for the past ensures that we do not repeat mistakes. Courage, patience, and understanding are values that survive time, just like the king's story has survived centuries. Amin looked at them both with pride. We have learned, we have respected, and we have survived. The tomb's curse is no longer a danger, it is a reminder that history must be honored, and those who enter it must do so with humility and care. As they reached the village, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. The day had been long, but the journey had changed them forever. They knew that the tomb's story would remain with them, guiding their decisions, inspiring their actions, and reminding them that respect and courage were timeless. Ramil, Sophia, and Amin shared a quiet moment, reflecting on all they had experienced. The Forgotten King had tested them, taught them, and trusted them. They had succeeded not by taking treasures, but by learning, understanding, and honoring the past. And so, the story of King Haroon, once hidden and forgotten, became alive once again, not in a tomb, but in the hearts and minds of those who understood it. The curse had ended, not with fear, but with respect. The Forgotten King's legacy was preserved, and the lessons of courage, wisdom, and honor would live on through those who carried his story forward. Ramil looked at his friends and said softly, the tomb has given us more than treasures. It has given us understanding, and that is worth more than anything gold could buy. Sophia smiled. Yes, we will honor him, remember his story, and share his lessons. That is the true ending of the king's journey. Amin nodded. Let us go forward, guided by the past, ready to face the future, and never forgetting the lessons of the Forgotten King. The sun disappeared beyond the horizon, leaving the sky tinged with soft shades of purple and orange. The tomb remained silent behind them, its secrets protected, its lessons honored, and its story safe in the hearts of those who had proven themselves worthy. History had survived, and so had the explorers, forever changed by the undying curse of the Forgotten King's burial site.